Now your time starts. The first round it will be for Netaji House. After the Netaji House, you can raise your hand to get your turn on these points. And listen carefully. No second time, and only the audio is played at once. Start, sir. Otherwise, you can go for next. Elder wants to check it.
Array, move the side. Yeah.
Is an indispensable element of the life of every child, as it allows him to cross the borders of the real world. Hence, to find oneself at a fantastic imaginary time, just like the child's favorite character. Children's literature is a factor comprising all kinds of child's experiences and related feelings. What is your reflections on this statement? No problem, you can sit and express.
Sir, actually, whenever we read a fairy tale, we get to see different scenarios where the child gets into different topics. They live in a different world with different characters. They imagine themselves being in the world with their favorite characters as they become fan of it. So, when they read a fairy tale, they go into a scenario where they get to see morals, they get psychologically affected mentally and even physically. They tend to do all the things that they read in their book in our real world. So, I believe that the moral that they get will be reached by them whenever they get old or matured. Till then, they'll have a thinking in their brain whether this can be done in our real life, as they think sky is not the imagination and it's not the limit. So, imagination is endless.
What do you think about these reflections? I want to draw it from Gandhi House.
Yes, sir, I do agree with Sanjay. Because if we imagine, it also gives us peace too. For example, even now kids usually read fairy tales. But even when grown-ups read fairy tales, when they are stressed with their work or something, they can get a peace of relief mind because they are going to another world. They are not living in the real world as we. They are going to other world exploring more, exploring beyond the space, everything. Because imagination can't be seen in real life. So it helps them to maintain peace. They can be calm.
Yes, he says that child can have exposure to bring his own hidden talent by reading his fairy tales. What do you think about it? Anyone? Yeah, Sastri House. Rima.
Sir, I don't agree with Sanjay because he said about mental and physical health. Physical health, fairy tales doesn't affect physical health in any way. But mental health, it does affect. It does affect in a way that the children will go into stereotypes. For example, when a child is there, they think that girls are always suppressed and they are like damsels sitting there. Because in fairy tales, they show females as a helpless character, whereas males are heroistic.
Yes, it is absolutely a correct point. And what do you think Nehru House? Yes, he says last child will have a chance to grow his stereotype feelings, and also there will be impacts on his physically and emotionally. So do you agree with that, and what do you think about it?
Sir, I agree with the thought shared by Rima because
when a 10th class child or when a grown up child still reads fairy tales, he is potentially separated from the others. People say, why are you dreaming? Start living. People say like that, and they potentially avoid him. That's why it affects him mentally and kind of physically also.
Actually, there are successful stories who have become and who have shaped their life very beautifully by reading fairy tales. But my children says that there are some negative aspects that kills the imagination of students. So, who do you want to express your views on this point?
To add to her point that yes, I do want to add that she says that women are seen as helpless characters. I feel like this is something which is deep. I feel like this is something which is deep rooted in our society. It's like the people just want to convey the message that women are not capable of doing so. Because when we see mostly,
Do you say that women are incapable?
No.
Or do fairy tales affect women?
sir, I want to say that this is based on the societal issue, sir. So basically in our society, a lot of men think that women are incapable of doing so. I feel like sometimes the fairy tales just which are written by people who have the similar mindsets. I feel like they do because fairy tales are mostly read by girls, right, sir? So I just feel that it is just something very indirect, just used to pass on this information that you cannot do it on your own and you cannot succeed on your own. I think.
Yes, come on.
Sir, actually I don't agree with this statement, sir. She said that fairy tales are only read by women and or girls. But this is not the point. In every fairy tale, we tend to see that the central idea is even based with men. And there is no story that is having only women with them. Even the Cinderella story has a prince. So, there is no critically a gender bias in a fairy tale. This can only be done when there is a parental control when the fairy tales are read.
What do you think about this point? Actually, it says that fairy tales do not affect are not written based on this gender bias. What do you think?
Sir, I strongly disagree with this point as in most of the fairy tale, in every fairy tale it is not included, but in most of the tales it is included, such as in Cinderella. There are many examples to give, such as Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Rapunzel, and most of the tales include women in which the characters are very depressed and they'll not have the importance is more, but they are made as a very suppressed characters. Sir. So they the age which when the fairy tales were written, this dates back to the Bronze Age. So when the people in the Bronze Age wanted to say that they wanted to use this gender bias in the fairy tales as they wanted to differentiate between the men and female in the past. Sir.
I agree with Vishal, sir, because he said that women are fairy tales are stereotypical. I agree with Vishal in that way, and even I wanted to add a point that even fairy tales show that children. Fairy tales set the mindset of children in a different way. So in fairy tales they show an ugly and a fat person as a villain, which makes the children think the same in real life. If the children now at present children think that people who are fat and ugly are villains, and who are good looking and beautiful are some kind of princesses and some very capable person. In this way, fairy tales affect the children's mindset.
Yeah, Charita, how can you support your phrase argument?
Yes, sir, I do agree with Reema, sir. In fairy tales, good-looking people can get love and only good-looking people can get love and happiness, while unattractive people are evil, and women can only be saved by men, sir.
Yes. So this is a. How do you feel, audience? All of you? Are you able to support their ideas?
Yes, sir.
Are you all?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is with the first one. Now I want to pose a question to Gandhi House. As you know, an egocentric mind struggling to achieve a true understanding of the world may end up falling prey to the tools of indoctrination and propaganda. This is an important tool that makes most of the people to live their life without any work, without any other elements. Only propaganda, it creates multiple gossips and it becomes a one sort of communication among them. So not to mention here, there is a huge difference between world of fairy tales and our actual world. So these fairy tales may lead us to unnecessary and impossible expectations, ultimately resulting in frustration and cognitive problems. So what do you draw from it?
So yes, sir, fairy tales are different from the real world, fairy tales world. Because, sir, if we, in the whole day, we are not living in the fairy tale world or imagining the fairy tale world, sir. Just to get separated from the real world, just to control the stress in our real world, we are going to a fairy world. So, it's not a big problem that it's not taking us far away from reality, sir. It's just making us close to imagination.
A small request to panelists. While a panelist is speaking, you can raise your hand to get your turn. Okay, so that I can give turn to you. Okay, now. Yes.
So I actually support with Gandhi House. The one point he said is, we are able to meet reality with the help of morals. I accept with that statement. I actually did this because we read fairy tales to get ourselves relaxed. And this is generally done by children and the age of and the students of the age of even 9 and 10. Fairy tales are even read by people like me. Like whenever we see movies like Spider-Man, these are also fairy tales. Like
Yes.
they give morals. These morals are applied to us when we get matured, and that is not seen in children.
I don't agree with Sanjay because he's giving false expectations. Fairy tales give false expectations because in fairy tales the world is shown in a very perfect manner, and even children tend to believe what is in fairy tales, which leads to false expectations of children. And after growing up, the children will realize and they'll start getting upset about it.
Yes, Nilafar?
Sir, I want to support Reema and I want to add 2 more points, sir. In fairy tale worlds, we see a prince or godmother comes to the rescue of princess or damsel in distress. But in real world is really cruel and people try to mock upon us. So we should be not dependable on other people. But when children read these fairy tales, they feel that always my parents or always my guides will protect me from all the around the world. They feel like that, sir. This is serious issue, sir.
Sometimes I'm pestered with my children also. Dad, why don't you jump like a Rapunzel? Why don't I have my long hair? Dad, why don't you bring this wall stickers to apply in my bedroom? I want to see a superstar. I want to see even Batman. I don't know even when I was in class 10 and class 11 now. Truly, just all this I have come to know through my children only. So what do you think about this? How would I expect and how would I understand, justify my life having gone through these experiences?
So fairy tales are not only meant to imagine having a long hair, having flying powers. The main intention of fairy tales, reading them at a younger age, is to understand the moral and apply it when we grow up. We just can't take Rapunzel has long hair, after I grow up I have long hair. We can also take that a good person comes to rescue Rapunzel And when I grow up and I am in problem, a good man comes to rescue me. We should not only take the imagination but also the morals here. That's why, and we can apply it in real life. That's what fairy tales are meant for. If we add imagination to that, it would be easier for us to read and it will be interesting.
Yes.
Sir,
Shall
actually,
God, I want.
Sir, I would say I would.
It's okay.
Sir, I would say that. Sir, I would agree with him. Like they teach us, they give us more morals, and they help us to learn more from the fairy tales they show.
Yes, of course, that is correct. They gave us moral stories. But when I went to this Kaushik house, I can see a wall sticker. Even Nilofar's house is completely filled with Superman, Batman, other Iron Man. What is the impact of these images and these characters on the child's mind?
I can add up a point.
Yes.
So today a 3-year-old kid also knows how to open YouTube in phone. This 2K generation is a world of reality.
Yes.
They say to me that Batman, Superman, they are not real. And they already know it. But they only keep all those pictures in their home because they just love them. And they explore the ideas with these characters. They learn morals from the fairy tales. This is my point, sir.
So our expectations may lead them into a trouble.
Yes, sir.
Oh, so audience, you must observe these points from our families. So please be careful and don't try to imitate them. Okay, as of reading these fairy tales, of course, you can enrich a lot of knowledge. Thank you. Now let's go to our videos. I think these are round. Let us come to know through this expert.
So the question is, how do you reverse the damage that is being done if you're a victim, if you're a child of trauma? How can you change your consciousness so that you can believe in new possibilities for yourself? It's an incredible feat to turn that around, right? For me, I had a safe haven. I had solace. I had the beautiful storybooks, the fairy tales, the Cinderellas, Beauty and the Beast, Chronicles of Narnia. All these books represented to me the hero's journey, the hero's struggle, overcoming, so ultimately end, you are the hero of your own life.
Is it clear? Okay, Rima, what do you think about, she says that we can have a lot of respite from our troubles and trauma, a child who is badly affected by the neuro disorder and other problems.
I agree with her, sir, because fairy tales is kind of, they take us to a different world which is imaginary, which is beautiful, which we wanted. So it affects the child in a very good way too.
Okay, still, do you agree with her views?
Yes, sir, I agree with Rima's point, as when a child or a person is badly affected with some or the other depressing, the person, when he reads fairy tales, he'll be able to imagine more, and he may try to resolve his own problem by the protagonist, act of the protagonist in the story, and he may try to resolve his own problem, sir.
So you feel that stories become a solace to us? Yes, anything?
So yes, sir, I do agree. Stories become a solution to our depression because in all the fairy tales, good wins over evil. So children can connect it to their depression, that I can win over depression. In fairy tales, good wins over evil, I also can win over depression. I can imagine more. So it's a solution for depression.
Yes.
Sir, I would like to add that in the fairy tales, when we read them, we see that the protagonist is solving their own problem on their own.
Yes.
So in that way, we can too tell ourselves that yes, we are capable of solving our problems on our own. Yes, we do need help at times, but at the end of the day, we are by ourselves and we are capable of solving this problem.
Yes, Sanjay?
They actually accept with this statement, sir. And I also want to add some points on it. Can I add it, sir?
Come.
Sir, it all depends upon the way we take the situations in the story, sir. And the opinions matter from one child to the other. So, there is a slight difference between each children in the way they are affected by the story. Accept with Dani also.
Okay, next slide. So it is really interesting that even a child who is suffered from trauma and neutral disorder, they can survive by reading these fairy tales. It gives a lot of solace to them. So I request all the audience to join your big huge round of applause to these families because they are really wonderful in expressing their views. It is really excellent. Now, here is one more audio. Kindly listen. Nehru House, I am going to pose a question to you. It is not just like this, it is only a discussion.
Following my research, I have formed my thesis which states that the fundamental motifs and morals of traditional fairy tales have a negative impact on the psychological development of children. The primary sources I will be analyzing are Perrault's Cinderella or the Little Glass Slipper, Disney's The Little Mermaid film, Grimm's Little Snow White, and Majnudar's Adventures of Lakmal and Yokmal. The outline of my research essay will focus on the effects of fairy tales on the following 3 points. Through my research, I have uncovered that fairy tales aid in the production of stereotypes for young children. By using primary texts such as Cinderella, Disney's The Little Mermaid, and secondary popular sources, I will address the various ways in which children learn to associate particular characteristics such as ugliness, poverty, and being overweight as being evil and inferior. Additionally, the use of evil stepmothers in many fairy tales also encourages children to stereotype potential stepmother figures in their lives.
Okay.
The impact of fairy following.
So, what do you think about it? Here, about stereotypes, about the negative aspect of reading these fairy tales.
Sir, fairy tales are written mostly by Grimm brothers and Hans Christian Andersen. These persons date back to 1804 or 1880s, I guess. So at that time there are no feminine revolts or there is no gender equality. Today in modern age we are raising women empowerment and all, but at that time there is no gender equality. So based on that society, they wrote fairy tales which include gender bias and which include the underrepresentation of women and stereotypes also. So I want to say that it's not the mistake of fairy tales or it's not the mistake of anybody. It's the thing that we need to rewrite our own fairy tales again so that where gender equality will be there. Those fairy tales are excellent, but at that time there is inequality.
Super. It is a strong reflection here. Now, why don't you join your hands? Come on. Audience, you will be asked a question at the end of this round. Get ready. I request all the teachers to join your hands for our children's discipline. See how attentively they are listening. Come on. Okay, here Kaushik wants to express his views in contrast or in support of our views.
Sir, she said that there is gender bias in fairy tales. So usually fairy tales are meant to be for empowerment of women. Because in starting a woman is thrown in a weak condition or a bad condition. At an end, a man or woman rescues her, helps her and help her to reach a wonderful place. So fairy tales are for the development of women.
Yes, Sanjay?
Sir, actually I don't agree with this statement, sir. So, as Nilofer told, in history, the fairy tales had a gender bias. I accept with that statement. But the evolution should be taken by us. We should write the fairy tales in such a way that there are no restrictions or bad things that should be there in the fairy tales. Because the children are going to get affected by this. So, I accept this statement, sir.
Wow, that's really wonderful. Now, next slide, sir. The next.
I love traditional fairy.
Next one, sir, please.
Or
next. Okay. Yes, children, you know that our CBSE board, it is coming up with many plans and with many innovative ideas. So this audio is very closely related to the same strategy of our CBSE board, and let's have a discussion on this, ma'am. Later I will hand over this mic to you. Okay, please, and it is open for all.
Ensures that these stories not only teach children a moral at the end of the book, but all throughout. Therefore, he's promoting an educational system based on folk tales. It's entitled To Be Happy, Educating in Values.
El éxito de este sistema.
The success of the system is based on something as old as fairy tales themselves. It's been adapted to the educational system so that the child can work and learn through the stories.
It's being called a revolutionary educational system. Young minds learn the value of effort, honesty, and obedience through explanations teachers make of the stories, activities, and goals that are proposed.
Cuentos, las actividades.
More tales, more activities, more sentences, more goals that are being set for the children. The goals that are being set for the children is according to what is being told in the story. What the child learns from the story is to live the values.
For example, in the folk tale of the
Okay now, and it's an open question for all the houses. You can just raise your hand and you can grab the opportunity. So Vishal.
Sir, they mentioned that it's a revolutionary educational system.
Yes.
I agree with that point as the children who are not going to school and below the age of the school, kindergarten children, the fairy tales are being read rather than education to make them moralize the values and implement it in the real life. So they can grab these values and also the vocabulary skills. So this makes it easy for them when they go to the school to learn and grab their teachers what they are saying, sir.
Next. Anyone else? Okay, Sanjay.
Sir, generally when parents go to different schools to join the children, they think of, at one point they'll think that they can join the children in Western countries or European countries. This is because their education system is better. And this may or may not be a stereotype, but I actually agree with this statement. Here, the fairy tales in the kindergarten help the children to build some skills which are necessary for their education in their future. But the only point here is the way they capture and grab it and the morals they get from it. This point should be added, sir.
So, because of these fairy tales, their education is well developed. This is your statement?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. What do you think, Karen?
Sir, I agree with this point, and I like to add that instead of showing them visuals, we should give them a read or like make them listen to the stories. Because as she said, visuals do impact and set a perfect standard for them. Like for example, if we see a princess, we look at her, how she's like shaped and how her hair is, how beautiful she is. We might just compare ourselves to her and we might not feel like the main character anymore. So I feel like instead of visuals, we should just use audios or just read them.
Okay.
Yes, sir, I do agree with her because showing visual impacts on mental health and listening to them is better than.
Okay. Anyone else?
Sir, I would like to add that if we see the video of a fairy tale or it is an animated version, it's better to read, sir. Because if we see an animation, for example, there's Cinderella, there's a video with Cinderella animation. In that, fairy come and gives Cinderella a nice dress. So in that visual, Cinderella may be wearing a blue dress. But if we imagine, I may imagine she's wearing a white dress, she may imagine she's wearing a pink dress. So it improves our imagination and creativity if we listen or read it. If we read it also, it improves our vocabulary and grammar. So reading is the best way to enhance fairy tales.
So reading enhances a lot. So he expressed his views on power of reading skills.
Sir, actually, I want to add up a point, sir.
Sure.
Sir, whenever we read or hear a story, we tend to build the characters, the plot, the background, and everything that we imagine in our brain. So this helps in our imagination skills, building our imagination skills, and even grasping power. But this is not the case when we see an animated video. Whenever we see an animated video, whatever we have thought in our brain is already in front of the screen. So what is the need for me to imagine the story? So there's ultimately a wall that stops the imagination when we have a video. So that's not correct, sir. I agree with this statement.
Yes.
I agree with everyone's. The first point is reading story tales enhance vocabulary skills. They build imagination skills too. Even they build problem solving skills. For example, if there is a person who is in a very big problem in a fairy tale, at the end, however, the person will go through different stages, different hardships, and at least at the end they'll come to a conclusion, and at least they'll get a solution for that, which also helps the child to get motivated out of that problem solving skills and everything. Even the impact on our imaginary skills, as Sanjay said.
Okay. Yes, Nilofer?
Sir, I agree with all, sir. Sir, I just want to add one more point is that when children read the fairy tales, they start to think, what if these things are real? They start to think, how can they be represented in the real world? Then they start to compare the things. They start to compare the things in the real world. So then their imagination level grows, and this boost only can happen when they read stories.
Ma'am, it's your time.
Sir, I disagree with them.
Yeah, she is done with her part.
Okay, so one thing here I just want to ask all of you, at which age, if you listen to a fairy tale, every age it will give a different perspective, right? Now if you read it's different. And when you were 3 years old, that would have been different. So, how do you think fairy tale when we should introduce to the kids?
Ma'am, introducing them in the middle of, when they are going to be matured is the best way, ma'am. Because if we introduce it at a very young age, they only try to find the superpowers or whatever magical things are there. And if we try to introduce them after they mature, they will try to get only the morals. But if we start introducing them at an age when they are going to graduate, when they are going to be a grown-up, then they can understand both the magical features and also the moral, so that they find it interesting, they find it helpful, they find a moral also.
When a fairy tale is given to a 3-year-old boy or a girl, he thinks, wow, see the hair of the character, I want the dress of it. They'll just see the pictures of it. But later, when they attain the age of 6 or 7, they'll tend to read the story line by line. But when it comes to age of 10 to 15, they're getting morals from it, they'll see the vocabulary skills and even the devices used in the poem or the story. But I want to express that the fairy tale should be introduced at the middle ages, like 5 to 10. This is where they understand how they read and the way they understand. So this is my point.
Ma'am?
Ma'am, I think that certain ages can have a different level of fairy tales as well. You know, when we are young, we can have stories which are very fictional, as well as when we grow up a bit, we can have stories which are of our level as well. Like at this point, I will watch movies or shows which are something that I would like to watch. I would not like to watch Barbie movies at this age. I loved to watch them when I was younger, but now I like to watch a story with a very good plot, but also it is fictional. So I think that fairy tales can be developed according to the age as well.
Yes, sure.
Ma'am, I believe that it is better to introduce fairy tales at small ages such as 3 to 4, so that it is believed that when the children are small, they have more thinking and imaginary skills, and they'll be able to implement the values easily so that if the elders guide them only the good values, they'll be able to understand the good values and implement it through lifelong, so that it can affect them in a positive manner.
I don't agree with Vishal, but I agree with Aradhya. I agree with her because different kind of fairy tales are must be introduced in different types of ages. For example, when we are young, we like to read about different types of magic, wands, angels, and when we are this old, we like fictional, science fiction, and everything. Which when we are young, we need more morals. After that, after the age, at this age, they introduce some different kind of fairy tales. After we know a bit of the world, we'll understand that the given information, the fairy tale is wrong. For example, if there is a prince saving the princess over there, we will, at this age, we will think that it's not gender stereotype or anything. But when we are introduced to that kind of fairy tales when we are young, we think that men are superior and women are inferior.
And there are different fairy tales for different ages, ma'am. If you take when we are young, when we take Pinocchio or when we take the greedy dog story, the plot is very simple. The story also is very simple. But for young, it is too complicated and it contains much value. Now, when we are young age also, we start to believe the story. Now we don't believe it, right? The greedy dog or anything fictional stories. But when we become again older or like us, if there are any sci-fi movies or sci-fi fairy tales, we feel like, oh, they're real. They're real. We feel like we start to believe them. So I believe that there are different fairy tales for different ages.
Okay, Neelofer. Next.
Sometimes you extract the values, right?
Ma'am, I like to add that at this age we might not like to read the children's story, but when we are mature enough, we can actually, the creators can actually have a bit of reality in the stories as well. You know, like we can show the harsh realities of the world or the good realities of the world. I feel like at different ages, when we are exposed to the world, like as of now we are in school, so we are only exposed to a certain level. But when we grow up, we are exposed to the whole world. So as we grow up, I think we should add a bit of reality in the stories as well. So that will also help us and make us alert about it.
Yeah, ma'am, we want your reflections on this second round. How you feel? Just to express your views on this. Now, give your own reflections on the second round. Let's finish it because
So really you all have done very well, and at this early age, as he told, if you introduce, you can get this vocabulary, your vocabulary develops, then you extract the values, then okay, gender biased is one thing, what she told is like, it's up to the, like when it is written, the societal structure that time, it depends. And you always extract what is best for you, the values. Everywhere you will get a moral. So, what you will extract from the story is up to you when you grow up. I always like at this age also, sometimes you remember, okay, Jaisi karni, vaisi varni, kind of a thing. No? As you show, so you read. And there are many things, always like the evil is always, has to, the good always wins. Bad is ugly and good is good looking, that is also not a thing. Like Beauty and the Beast also shows the same thing. Again, what is that frog princess story? Frog and princess. So everywhere, like you cannot judge just thinking that okay, good is always good looking and bad is always ugly. So it's up to when you grow up, you will find many more perspectives. But you have done really well, all of you. It's difficult to judge.
Come on, audience, can you join your round of applause to all panelists? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Okay, the question I would like to ask you, audience, how many of you have read the story of Cinderella? What is the theme of the story? Can anyone please come here? So, Saraj so raised his hand. I am very glad to listen from sir. Okay. Yes, anyone? Audience, anyone?
Moral of the story, go.
You have read Cinderella story, right?
Moral of the story, go.
You will be given plus 20 points. Plus 50 points. Yeah, it is really. Tasneem ma'am? Yeah, okay ma'am, no problem. Come on, join our hands. Ma'am? Only 5 minutes to go, ma'am. For our last round, that we will do. Mike. Mike is there. The next round, only just it takes 5 minutes, and with this we will complete our panel discussion. Now,
Hello everyone. Everyone, really children have done so well. In the story of Cinderella, we learn that Cinderella is very beautiful. But though
ma'am also says that she is very beautiful. Then why don't children attract to her?
Then again, but she will be attracted by the prince. So, and she was not treated well in her home with her stepmother. So there, that relation is seen. Though she was not
Stepmothers
treated well.
are always
No,
only few.
Don't be judgmental. There are very good people also around us. It is how that. So Cinderella tells us, gives us that moral that even though she was treated so badly, but she was appreciated or she was liked by a prince. And then naturally she had a very good end. And that too, it was a help of fairy. So where that fairy helps her to get that
ma'am, we asked only thing, ma'am.
Yes.
It's 10 marks answer, ma'am. Only we require 1 mark answer.
Fairy tales, actually, sir, it also tells us about that generally children like happiness.
Yes.
You see, even in front of small children, if someone cries, the child starts crying. He wants happiness. He wants people to be happy. See, he does not want any bad thing or anyone crying in front of them. They are so tender. So at that age, fairy tales help them to bring happiness in them. And that happiness, and it is also said that when someone's childhood is happy, they try to bring happiness in the society also.
Okay.
Later on when they grow.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So happy ever, joy forever. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now let's jump into the third round. It is a rapid round, and panelists are asked questions by our audience. And let's start with the first question to Netaji House. I request Geeta ma'am to pose a question to Gandhi House. Sorry, Netaji House.
Good afternoon, children.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Fairy tales may take a child to the world of imagination and fantasy, which is far away from the real world. But for the child, it will be difficult for him to differentiate what is real and what is false. In such a situation, how should we develop a child to face this unreal world and fantasy world where she comes to know the reality? How she will be ready, how we have to make her ready to face the challenges in the coming days.
Netaji House, it is your question. Excellent question, ma'am. Thank you.
So, whenever we read a fairy tale, we get to see hero, heroine, and his colleagues. The hero faces the problem and solves this problem to get the heroine out of this problem. So, here the child get to see the way the hero or the person solves this problem. Here, the child first sees the character or what he does in the story. This is what depends. And here, each and every perspective of child differs from other child. So the opinion they take is depending on the reality. If the child is, here the ages matter. If the child is of age of less than 5, he may think that problem is severe and the hero may or may not be able to take the problem to get the solution for reality. When the ages are between 5 to 15, they get to see or they even predict the way the hero acts in situation. So it depends upon the scenario and the way the child thinks and opinions matter. Thank you.
It's fine now? Okay, next I request our beloved Sirish Raja sir to pose a question to Gandhi House.
Thank you, Satish sir, and this is a wonderful opportunity for every one of us. And my question is, can we integrate fairy tales with our studies? Can we? Because see, there is an opinion that fairy tales are so these problems are there, so that one is there. Okay, so unnecessarily they create imagination. A lot of things are discussed. So now my question, straightforward question is, can we integrate fairy tales with our studies? Thank you.
Justify your answer with proper evidence.
So yes sir, but definitely not all subjects. Fairy tales give us morals. Fairy tales give us values. So that it's definitely not applicable for all subjects like math, science and English. But we can learn the subject value education, which is the most important lesson in our life.
Wow. Only just a respective house is supposed to answer.
So can I add
I
a
think
point?
it is done. Only one panelist. Yes. Next, may I request Jayalakshmi ma'am to pose a question to Shastri House.
First of all, congratulations to all the panelists. You are doing an excellent job. Your research, how much you might have researched is seen in your discussions and all. Really, it's a wonderful discussion and a wonderful program that brings out the inner talents. The purpose of the Meda Championship is served, I felt, by seeing our children coming up with such a beautiful supporting answers and opinions. Whatever opinion they are giving, they are supporting with a strong evidence that they have with them. So congratulations all of you children. All of you are winners in my view. Let me ask you a question. You might have read so many fairy tales when you were young, right? And did your feelings towards a character in the fairy tale change when you grew up? If so, how did they change?
Super.
Shall I repeat the question? You might have read so many fairy tales when you were young, and you might have developed an opinion towards the characters as a child. Did your feelings towards the character change when you grew up? If so, how did they change?
Definitely a yes, because there is a fairy tale or else there are a series of books, Harry Potter. So when I was young, I saw them and I was like, Snape was the villain. Snape was the villain who didn't even support Harry Potter, and in the end, I just understood that he just tried to help Harry Potter in a different way, which I came to know after knowing some different kinds of things. For example, when I was small, I was like, if this person scolds the main character, he's bad. But at the end, what I understood is, Even if anybody scolds you or does anything for you, then he's helping you in a different way.
Wow, it is an apt answer. Now, may I request Anju ma'am to pose a question to Nehru House panelists. I think it is last question. We are done with this.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a very wonderful competition going on. We were very impressed, and we ourselves are thoroughly enjoying this competition. And my question is to Nehru House. We are hearing that since the beginning of this competition, I'm hearing it's an imaginary world, it's a beautiful world with fairies, tiaras, and all those. What actually the message we are getting from these stories? What is the message? Thank you.
Ma'am, what actually message we are getting is the values. It is not that imagination, it is not the character values or character appearance, it is the values we get from them. When you go to a kindergarten kid and say, you should not lie, then he thinks, why shouldn't I lie? Then when you start to narrate him a story or a fairy tale like Pinocchio, then he thinks, oh yes, I should not lie, maybe because of this. Then teaching values is easy when you narrate it in form of fairy tale. So they give values, they improve vocabulary skills, and they take us to a different world, but still we can differentiate from reality.
Wow. Thank you, my dear teachers, for posing the questions. We are done with this round. And I'm really excited to know the winners of this competition. I think it is a really tough task for our judges. This competition. So may I request all the panelists to hello. I sincerely express my gratitude to our beloved judges for coming to this event and making our event a huge success. So I request all the audience to join your huge round of applause to our judges, those who are in the panel. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So how many of you are going to read fairy tales hereafter? Are you all? Do you start reading, all of you? Are you all? How many of you are going to Okay, I request all the panelists to come here to have a photo of force. Ramrasta, please. Come on, children, why don't you join your hands? I know that you are so hungry. Okay? Definitely you will be served a delicious lunch with your